setting up your Lido charts for a flight. And there are two ways to do this. There's a long way, and then there's a quick way or a short way. And the short way is what you're going to use in the classroom, because a lot of times you're just setting up the flights really quick. I'm going to demonstrate both, starting with the short way, but the long way I'll demonstrate later. That's what you're going to be doing out on the line. So first of all, I've got page one of a flight release from Salt Lake City to Los Angeles, and I folded it in half. Just to show the flight plan route here. This is the filed flight plan. So basically, you've got Salt Lake City, some equipment information here, the filed altitude, flight level 280, WEVIC 6 departure out of Salt Lake City, EHK direct to Laker, Q88 Hackman, and then the Angel 2 arrival into Los Angeles. So first thing you're going to do is open up your Lido. So open that up and tap on this little corner up here. Let's see, and we're going to add in a departure. So in here, we're going to put Salt Lake City, KSLC, search, and just tap on that. So now you can see Salt Lake City has been added. And then down here, you're going to add a destination, KLAX. Now the differences between the long way and to do this and the short way to do it is that with the long way, you're going to start out by entering a route. And so now you'll have your route in there, but you don't need that right off the bat. So first of all, go into Salt Lake City, and now you've got all these different sections from the Lido: general, ground charts, the SID, the SID departure procedure. So this is the written version of it. There's some stars in here, and then instrument approaches. So since we're leaving from Salt Lake City, we're going to start out here, and you've got all these CCI pages. You've got AOI pages as well, and what you'll do is usually it's the first CCI 1 or CCI 2 you're going to open up. And so what I do is I just right away I star number 1, and this first page basically shows you, depending on whether you're operating an American flight or a Delta flight. So you can see here American, this is our operation frequency, so 129.2 for ops, and here's for a Delta flight, 30.1. But anyway, you've got some information here about your arrivals and departures. But as you go into the CCI page, as you go deeper, there's more information. And specifically, you start getting into these complex departure procedures. If not all airports have them, just so happens that Salt Lake City does. So in this case, right now, all I'm going to do is just set up the CCI page. Just tap on the first one, and then close this general, then open up our ground charts. AGC is your overall ground chart of the entire field. So I'm going to tap on that, and then let's see here. Actually, it doesn't have there's also another chart called an APG chart, and it gives you a kind of blown up version of the terminal area. So in here, there's your terminal area. It just so happens that this APG, what normally would have been a separate chart, is an inset in your AGC chart. So you don't need an APG chart. So that's kind of nice, because you don't need to tap on two things. But for most airports like LAX, you're going to have an AGC and an APG, and you'll star it. The reason you're starring these is because once you're done, you're going to go over to the clipboard, and then all you'll just see is the starred stuff, so you don't have to be sorting through a bunch of information you don't need. So there's our ground chart. I'm going to close this, and our departure procedure. And so from our release, it's the WEVIC 6. And a lot of times what you're going to do is, before you even set this up, you're going to get your departure clearance and see if it's the same. A lot of times you might have a different departure clearance, and why bother putting in the filed flight plan departure when it's something different. But in this case, it's the WEVIC 6. As you can see, WEVIC 6. I'm going to star that. This is your pictorial version of the departure. And then, so I'm going to close that. And now I want my text version of that same departure. This is what you're going to use in your briefing, in your pre-flight briefing. So I'm going to tap on that. There's a WEVIC 6. and here it is. It just so happened that the last time we took off on 16 left, and I highlighted uh, the runway and the description of the routing, and also we had this Enoch, which is EHK transition. So it's the Weavik 6 Enoch transition. So highlighted that, and there's some information next to it. You're going to brief all that during your departure brief. So that's pretty much it for Salt Lake City. Let's look at our clipboard. You can arrange things the way you want. If you want to move this, you just tap on that and you can put things in different order. I like to take my written version of the departure procedure and have that first in line, and then when we're getting ready to take off, I'll open up that chart. So anyway, so there you are, all set up for Salt Lake City. The only other thing is you're going to need to get your complex departure procedure out of here. Now, most airports will have just a basic engine failure procedure, and you'll look for that in the TLR data of the release. And let me see if I can find this real quick. We talked about this a little bit. If I have one here. Okay. So if you look here, let's just say we're going to depart on 16 left. Here's our takeoff data information. And what you do is you open it up, and you're going to look for the runway. And 16 left, and it's usually going to be a departure intersection, like, Alpha, like Hotel 12 or whatever. That's what you're going to put into the FMS when you're trying to send off for takeoff data. You're not going to do this in the classroom, but this is just so you know what to set up. So 16 left, let's just say it's just a full-length runway. It says special here. If there was something simpler, it would say, well, if there was something simpler here, it'll just say like a heading, and that'll be your engine failure procedure. But sometimes you'll have special, and you'll see that, and what you'll do is you'll go down to where you have your engine failure procedure information, and right here in this section here, it'll have if it's just a special engine failure procedure, a normal one, I don't really know what to term it, but it'll have like a heading after a VOR and an altitude, a flat protraction altitude. But if you go down here and you see complex special, which is not the usual case, and so like Missoula has this, Salt Lake City has it. If you see complex special, now you got to go to the Lido charts and you got to pull this up. And this is why I'm showing you this now. So you see complex special for 16 left. So now let's go back to here, and we know we're doing this Weavik departure off 16 left. So let me go back to all charts, and remember some of these CCI pages, you get in here, CCI 3, you have these complex specials. So you're going to find the complex special departure procedure for the Weavik. So let's see if I can find this off 16 left. And that's the LETS. That's the PBOP, Twin Falls. Here's the Weavik. So it says here, takeoff, runway 16 left, Weavik, RNAV departure procedure, all aircraft. You got to make sure that it's for the right aircraft too. I'm going to star that because that's also going to be part of your departure brief. When you get to the engine failure part of the departure brief, you're going to read this chart, the whole thing. If it was just a simple special departure or simple engine failure procedure with a heading, you're just going to say engine failure procedure heading whatever, 164. And then if it was just a simple special, you're going to go down and you'll read what it says down here. And then if it's a complex special, in this case, you're going to use your Lido chart. So you're going to read that. So now let's go back to the clipboard. I've got CCI page here. I'm going to stick this special right here, because when you're briefing the departure, you're going to read this whole thing. You're going to say runway 16 left, turn point, altitude 4730 feet, hop toe, MIREP, WEVIC, MIREP minimum 13,000, initial climb is 16,000. You're going to read the transition and any restrictions here, Zobe at 14,000. Then you're going to say engine failure procedure. And this is where you would just say the heading or whatever if it was a simple thing. But in this case, you're going to end up reading this whole thing. So it basically says, before hop to continue on the SID, reaching 5,300, accelerate, retract flaps, etc., etc. And that's how you do your brief. But now I've got all my charts set up on the Lido. The cool thing here is that if I were to go back and just open up the full page, let's see if I can do this. Tap on that. Now I can just scroll through the charts in order that I lined them up. So let's go back to this. And let's go back to this. I'm going to quickly set up LAX. So LAX, the CCI 1 is for American. CCI page 2 is for Delta. And what I'm talking about here is the operations frequency and particulars that have to do with either American or Delta. So in our case, the flight that we were on, I can't remember if it was American or Delta. It was American. So I would have just only set up this right here, the CCI 1 for LAX. You could scroll through all of these. There's taxi routes. I've already very familiar with all of these, so I don't have to star them. But if you want to, you can. There's just information about the airport in general. Now let's go to your ground charts. And remember, we were talking about here's the AGC chart. That's your overall view of the entire airport. And then here's your APG. This is specific. This is like a blown up version of the gates. Except for at American, at LAX, you have this American Eagle APG. So now you can highlight that. And that is the American Eagle. I'll show you where that is at LAX. At LAX, so here's the entire chart. The American Eagle, which we call the box, is this area right here. Here's the American Eagle APC chart, and that's just a blown up version of it. But for Delta, just going to leave this up. Delta gates are all over here. So you're looking at Terminal 3 and 2. And if you look at the APC chart, there's your gates blown up. Anyway, so there's your ground charts. Don't need a SID because this is your arrival airport. Now you put in your star. So we are filed for the Angel 2 into LAX. There's the Angel 2. If you tap on that, you can see there's the arrival. And then you'll put in your runway as you're getting closer, and you know which runway. But in this case, this Angel 2 just so happens, not all arrivals list this, but the Angel 2 here says expect runway 25 left unless otherwise assigned. So you could just go in here and you're going to get this from experience anyways, that you're going to get this approach. So I'm going to highlight the 25 left approach, and you can tap that if you want, and there's the approach. Now let's go back to the clipboard, line them all up. So I've got for LAX, I've got my CCI 1 for American, your AGC, which is the overall ground chart. And then this is the gate ground charts, one for American, one for the Delta gates. Your Angel 2 arrival into Los Angeles. So now you're done. You pretty much have, you can go back. You've got Salt Lake City. You've got LAX. And this is the short way. This is the short way, even though it didn't seem so short because I was explaining everything. But that's a short way of setting this up. And you can save this by doing this. Tap on save. I just go to LAX because I already have a saved one in here. It's going to ask me if I want to override it. Sure, I'll override. Okay, so now let's go the longer way to do this. And all I'm going to do is just show you how to put this in from scratch with a with the route. And sometimes you just don't have the time to put all this stuff in, especially in the classroom. So here you go. So let's just do plus. We're going to put a new route. So I can either pick a saved route here, as you can see when I do plus, because I have a bunch of saved stuff, or I can just clear out what I have by hitting this trash can. It'll clear out this particular thing, and I can start all new like we did from the beginning of this video, where you put in your airport, your departure, and your arrival. But in our case, we're going to start with this route. So I'm going to tap on enter route, and literally you're going to start. This is from scratch. So you're going to go KSLC space, and then I'm going to start entering our filed flight plan here, but I'm not going to put the departure. All I'm going to do is Enoch, Laker, Q88, Hackman, skip the arrival, and put in LAX. So watch how this works. So EHK, that's Enoch, and then direct to Laker, LAKRR, space, Q88. You can actually put let's see, Q88, 88, and then Hackman. That's the first point on the arrival. You see how that went red? It's because at first it didn't recognize what that was. So if it doesn't recognize, if it's not in here, it'll show up red. And so now into KLAX. You're not going to put in a runway or anything. It's just, this is just the route. You'll see why this works great, because now when you hit load, do you want to load this route? Just hit load. It'll automatically load Salt Lake City, LAX. But the great part is you can tap on route here now, and here's your route page. The whole route is in there. Whereas before, all we had was Salt Lake City to LAX. It'll just draw a straight line. But you really want to have this when you're on the line. You want to have this route in here. So if you do need to look up Q Airways or Jet Airways, you can zoom down in here. Like say they tell you intercept a particular airway. You know where you are and where you need to go. This is when you get on the line. You're not going to really do this in the classroom. So, and just like before, you're going to set up all of these pages, starring them as you need them. And for the departure and for the arrival, I'm not going to do that now because you know how to do it from the first part of this. So anyway, I hope that helps. I will talk to you later.